that communists were infiltrating the government, the schools. So so we often draw the comparison, right? But you all did your own witch hunts, right? You found some current example, right, or some historical example that you, despite how different it was from the same witch trials, drew that comparison and said, oh, there's this underlying theme, maybe paranoia, conformity. How many of you are history majors? Oh, perfect. So when you're looking at a historical event, or I'm sorry, a contemporary event, do you find that in history you're maybe trying to compare it to some other?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, give us a little background. How does that process work?
Like in general, or do you want specific examples?
That's short, specific examples.
Well, the McCarthy era and the witch trials is most obvious, but throughout, like right now, I'm in an American history class and an international politics class, and there's a lot of little underlying themes, you get especially with colonialism and imperialism, and how that affects our modern politics, and how we still have a lot of those underlying relationships with other nations based on the founding of America and our relations with international markets.
So fine, despite you're right. So we have difference in time, right? Some current event, some international event, or policy. But you're going way back in time to say, hey, this is very different. Maybe different countries involved, very different time period. But there's some parallel, right? Maybe we can learn something from that.
One of my favorites right now is the War of 1812 when America went into Canada and be like, we're going to liberalize you and free you from your oppressors. And that has a lot of very relevant modern parallels with how America likes to help nations that really ask for it.
Cool. Wow. You drew a great analogy there. We went off into history and then patience, right? Individual patience. Great. Because you saw that parallel, right? Asking for help or offering help or forcing help when you don't need it, right? In the historical global context versus the current contemporary treatment. Very good. So that's illustrated, right? And that can be helpful if you're trying to explain something to someone outside your discipline, right? And how many of you have kids? Yeah. Try explaining something really complex or maybe really simple to you to a child, right? You're trying to relate it in their terms. Right? Try to find a way for them to understand, right? So it's like the idea of the human body is like a car, right? Maybe if you've done the project, you know, a cell is like a car. It has all these different components. But if you're a mechanic and a doctor comes in with their fancy Audi, it's like, my engine just blew up. Why did that happen? You're like, okay, well, doctor, I'm the mechanic. Well, doctor, as you know, right, if you don't come in for regular checkups, something really catastrophic is going to happen later on that we could have caught earlier. Now you're going to have surgery. Whereas we could have taken care of it very, very early on with minimal, no procedures. And that's similar to your car. If you had brought your car in for regular oil changes, the engine wouldn't have blown up. We wouldn't have been dealing with this right now. But think about audience, right? Who are you relating this to? For this, it's all going to be academic, right? Your instructor, your classmates when you do peer reviews, the writing center tutors. Your audience is going to be academic, so you don't necessarily have to go into that kind of elementary kind of explanations, right? But you're still going to be explaining concepts that someone might have no familiarity with. You're going to be using probably a little less illustration in this study, or I'm sorry, in this writing, and more generalization, right? And I'm sorry, could you remind me of your name?
Andy.
Andy did a great job of generalizing two very different examples, right? History and international conflict with contemporary treatment, right? There's that common parallel, this kind of behavior that you're identifying maybe generalizes across history, against disciplines, against populations. So here, in psychology, science, health, we have two studies. I don't know if can you see that in the back? So we have two different experiments. And this might be something that you're going to be looking at, especially if you're doing a topic related to medicine or health or psychology. It's going to be very study heavy. So in experiment 1, the results from this study, which was a Swedish study, show that participants' depression improved, right? It went away after increased vitamin D exposure from sunlight. So in Sweden, the participants, their depression was alleviated after they were exposed to vitamin D from sunlight. In experiment 2, the results from a study in Argentina, right, so on the opposite end of the globe, show that participants' depression improved after vitamin D exposure from supplements. So how are these different? How do we distinguish things? The obvious. How about you in orange shirt? How do you think these studies are different? Even the obvious stuff. Different countries.
Yeah, different countries.
Countries.
Different environment.
Different environment.
Yeah, different different products in different countries.
Yeah. Very good. Anything else that you see? Differences in research? Yes.
The difference in how both separate instances, how the patients were getting their vitamin D.
Very good. So we have two studies on opposite ends of the globe. We can make a lot of, probably very different populations. We could assume that, right? But the clear difference here is they're absorbing the vitamin D through different modes, right? One's through sunlight, one's through a supplement. The result seems the same though, right? Impression improved, right? If you're a huge vitamin D advocate, and like, this is the way for the future, this is how we're going to improve health and longevity, you like these studies. They're saying, look, regardless of where you live, right? Regardless of how you take in this vitamin, it's going to improve your depression, right? You're going to be a happy person, and it's going to alleviate your depressive symptoms. There's some problems with this, though, right? Maybe you see some errors with this study, or potential, or at least some questions. We don't have a lot of information on it. Right? Yes?
What's their definition of improved?
Good. How much, right? Maybe is it this much improvement or this much improvement? Right? Maybe everyone was happy to begin with. Or maybe there was, we don't know, their baseline.
We don't know like how many participants there actually was. Like that could have been like 5.
Exactly.
Very
Very good. This could have been, 1,000-person sample conducted over 5 years. This could have been a sample of 4, 10 at a college campus, done within like 1 month. Yeah, we don't know a lot. I mean, you know about the latitude, climate of Sweden? Yeah.
You can't really accurately get an idea for how much sun a person who has been living in Argentina has been getting on a daily basis, like in and out of the experiments. You just can't keep track.
We don't know. Yeah, we don't know how much sunlight to measure. We know when, in Sweden, we know it's dark for a lot of the year. Maybe during the summer, it's very light. Maybe if this was done during the summer, they were already happy, right? Everyone's on vacation, they're out canoeing and lingonberries. Very happy, right?
That's far away.
So we're making a lot of assumptions, right? So even if you like this study, you want to be very critical of it. If you're relying on this, it's like, oh, vitamin D is so awesome. You want to pick this apart and really figure out on your own what these numbers mean and look like. But you can analogize this, right? To show, so if we still, let's assume this is all good, it's a valid study. If we still want to use them in our research, we still want to do that generalization, right? So we first identify how they're similar, different, right? We're going to do that at the outset with any analogy. Because most opponents of an analogy will first say, oh, you're comparing two distinct things, right? Two different. You're comparing apples and oranges, and we're talking about tangerines and tangelos. Right? So you kind of preempt that criticism. Like, okay, these are very different. I'm going to throw that out to you right now. But let me tell you how they're similar. And if again, these are the most creative analogies and the most, I think, interesting, is when you can draw that underlying parallel despite some really different phenomena. So, but you do that at the outset. But it's more than just a compare-contrast, right? Because you're taking that similarity and using it to support some broader argument. And that's what's key here with analogy. You're not just saying, oh, well, they're similar and different in these ways. You're taking that similarity and you're using it to support some broader point. You're taking those premises, right, back to our argument. You're taking that evidence, that rationale, and you're starting to mold that together, right, to support this claim, this conclusion that's on top of the argument. So let's apply this to law. And I love analogies because I used to work in law, and that's all you do, right? Maybe you've seen like courtroom dramas where like, this case is just like the 1975, serial killer murders, and this applies here. You're always applying precedent. That's the binding law. We won't get too much into that, but what we're going to do is we're going to look at a fact pattern, and we're going to be the law firm representing parents. And parents in a situation, and they're getting sued under this statute, which is the law on the books, right? Maybe if you got a speeding ticket, it'll stay in there if you read it. You're speeding under statute ORS 1234. I don't even know what it is, right? It's so bad. And then we're going to look at a precedent case, so an old case that interprets some of the language there. We're going to analogize this in support of our client. So here, parent was in a long-term relationship with partner. So there's two characters so far, parent and partner. Parent is going to be our client. Who is in partner was an ex-prostitute, provided daytime care for parent's child. So parent and partner in a relationship, parent has a child from a former relationship, and partner provides child care for parent's child. Partner had not been involved in prostitution for over 5 years and maintains a close relationship with child. So this was some time ago. Partner's currently out of this profession, has a very close relationship with the child, and provides daytime care. Parent was aware of partner's former profession, so they were open about this. Partner's ex-pimp tracked down partner after escaping from jail. So we have a new character, ex-pimp, tracked partner down after escaping from jail and assaulted partner in front of the child without provocation. So this was an out-of-the-blue incident. Partner was caring for the child, and unbeknownst to them, ex-pimp escapes from jail, tracks him down, and assaults him in front of the child. Now we have a fourth character, ex-spouse. This is our opposing party. Ex-spouse now wants to terminate parents' parental rights pursuant to Law 123. So, ex-spouse is our opposing party. We're representing parents to make sure parent keeps their parental rights. So we're working with this statute. It says a person shall lose the right to parent a child if that person knowingly exposes the child to a situation that threatens the child's physical safety. That's a very broad definition. How many of you have driven a child, maybe you went 5 miles over the speed limit? Don't tell anyone.